Happy Friday, everybody. I hope you had a great week. As we wrap up another week, there's been so much going on. As always, our thoughts right now are with all of those who are fighting in Ukraine. We hope for a lasting peace in this world sometime soon. In the meantime, we have to work with the hands that we're dealt. So I'll keep bringing you market updates on Monday and planning videos on Friday. So I know that everyone's schedule is very busy, and I know that most of you don't have the time to talk to me every week about this. And quite frankly, most of you don't want to talk to me every week about this. But in order to keep up with what's going on and keep an eye on what we're looking at and what I'm looking at doing and planning for the investment side, please take 5 to 7 minutes a week. Watch that Monday planning video. Today is March 18th, 2022, and this is your Friday planning video, of course, the 5 to 7 minutes a week that we talk about some timely planning ideas. Today, I'm going to give you a break from the wills and estates that I've been talking about the last couple of weeks, and I want to revisit an old timely favorite that we talked about. That's Roth IRAs. Just to take a moment to remind you, remember, Roth IRAs are funded with after-tax money. That means you don't get a tax deduction for putting that money in, and you do have to pay taxes on that money before it goes into the Roth IRA. Okay, as always, a quick compliance note. I do not offer personal tax advice. I am interested in dealing and working with your tax professionals, and hopefully we can talk about the idea whether any of these strategies are right for you. Back to the program. Now, we know that Roth IRAs, since you have to pay taxes on the money that's going into them, they're able to grow tax-free. Now, that's the other side of what, contrary to what a traditional IRA is. Remember, that money is going to grow tax-deferred, which of course means that when you take that money out, you'll pay taxes on that as ordinary income. One of the ideas we spoke about was converting traditional IRAs to Roth IRAs, or at least portions of those. The key to this action is when you do it. The money from the traditional IRA has never been taxed, and the IRS is, of course, going to want their money. So if you're moving money to a Roth IRA, remember, when you take that money out of the Roth IRA, when you retire, you'll pay no taxes on that. Remember that. That's key. So in order to allow you to move the money from the taxable money to the tax-free growth money, the IRS will tax you when you convert it to the Roth, and they're going to convert it and they're going to tax it as ordinary income. But that money's now going to grow tax-free in the Roth IRA. What this allows you to do is to look at today, right now, with what's going on, move the same assets that you looked at last year when the market was higher and move a smaller dollar amount. So I mentioned in the video a couple of weeks ago, this is somewhat silver lining to the market being down so far this year. So let's just go over a quick example. If you had a $50,000 traditional IRA and converted that to a Roth IRA, the $50,000 is going to be reported and taxed as ordinary income. It's going to be taxed at your marginal tax rate. Now, we're just going to use 25% as an example. So let's say, just to keep it simple, that means that moving this money from a tax-deferred account to a tax-free growth account, it will cost you $12,500 in income taxes. If that same $50,000 was down 10% and you moved it to a Roth, the $45,000 that you move will be reported, and at 25%, it will be $11,250 in tax liability, a savings of $1,250. And though that may not sound compelling, remember that now this $45,000 is going to grow back to $50,000 and hopefully beyond, tax-free. So that's the idea. And when you retire, when you go to take that money out, a tax-free source of funds. You'll need to have the money outside of the IRAs that you're dealing with to pay those taxes. And that's an important fact to keep in mind. I have been talking to you over the past year about different tax buckets. Remember, we talked about the tax-deferred bucket, the tax-free bucket, and the taxable bucket. This is just one way that you can use the most recent move in the market to adjust these buckets in the overall long-term tax strategy. So there are a few things to keep in mind. The Secure Act that we spoke about last year has made this more important to some of you. Recall that the stretch option that was available is now gone. What that means is that if you're going to pass your IRA onto a non-spousal beneficiary, they will need to withdraw all the money in that IRA by the end of that 10th year. And that means they're going to have to pay taxes on all of that money. If it's a traditional IRA, they won't have to pay taxes on it if it's a Roth IRA. So that is one option people are looking at, why to move it to a Roth. The other main item that I'll mention, and I just had a conversation about this today, tax brackets and income does matter. So we always want to take into consideration what the current and possible future tax bracket is going to be. and use it to your advantage. So if you know that you're going to earn more next year, then maybe we should consider a conversion this year. If on the other side of it, you think you're going to retire or cut back on your hours and cut back on your income into future years, then maybe we should hold off and do the conversion later. So as you can tell, even some things that we think about are relatively simple. They can get complicated when it has to do with taxes. So I do suggest we talk about it and run it by your accountant as well. This is something we have a window to do right now. So if you're looking for that small reason to be happy that the market's down, aside from the ability to buy stocks at a lower price, this may be the reason you're looking for. So as always, please call me or email me with any questions. At least let's evaluate these options for you, see if it makes sense. Come back on Monday to hear the Monday market update, and I hope you have a great weekend.